The dust storm struck without a hint of warning, as they so often did in late summer across the Colorado frontier. Ethan Cole had just finished repairing a fence post when he noticed the brown wall sweeping over the prairie, devouring everything in its way. He muttered a curse under his breath and hurried to drive the horses into the barn before the worst arrived. In the blur of flying grit and shrieking wind, he almost failed to spot the figure staggering toward the ranch house. A woman bent nearly in half against the gale, clutching something tightly to her chest. Her bonnet was long gone, her dark hair lashing around her face like furious snakes. "Papa!" Little Emily's voice rang from the porch. "Somebody's coming." "Inside now," Ethan shouted back. But before he could stop her, his daughter was already racing across the yard toward the stranger, her small boots kicking up their own trails of dust. The woman collapsed onto her knees just as Emily reached her. That's when Ethan saw what she had been shielding so fiercely. A bundle of blankets that shifted and released the frail, piercing cry of an infant. "Mama!" Emily cried, flinging her arms around the woman's neck. "Mama came back." The word struck Ethan like a blow to the chest. His daughter hadn't spoken of her mother in months, not since Margaret had been laid to rest beneath the cottonwood tree behind the house. The fever had stolen her soon after Emily's 5th birthday, along with the son she had been trying to bring into the world. "Emily, no," he said softly, reaching them in 3 long strides. "That's not your mama, sweetheart." The woman lifted her face. Even with dust caked thick across her skin, Ethan could see the deep exhaustion etched there. Her green eyes, bright despite the grime, met his with a mix of desperation and defiance. "Please," she managed, her voice rough. "Just until the storm passes. My boy, he needs shelter." Ethan didn't waver. Bitter, broken, alone though he was, he had never been the sort of man to turn away a woman and child in need. Scooping Emily into one arm, he helped the stranger to her feet with the other. "Come on," he said gruffly. "Let's get you inside before this storm buries us all." The ranch house was humble, nothing fancy. 2 rooms and a kitchen built solid from timber and adobe. Margaret had tried to soften it with checkered curtains and a rag rug she'd woven by hand, but those homely touches only deepened the ache of her absence now. The woman sank into a chair at the kitchen table, clutching her baby close even though the storm was behind them. Ethan realized she was younger than he'd guessed, maybe 26 or 27. Hard years had left their mark. Her calico dress was patched in places, but freshly laundered. The baby, no more than 4 months old, had a tuft of dark hair and lungs strong enough to prove he was healthy despite the journey. "Water," Ethan muttered mostly to himself, as he crossed to the sideboard. "You'll be needing water." Emily hadn't left her side, one small hand resting gently on the woman's arm with the instinctive comfort only children can give. "Don't cry," she told her solemnly. "Pa fixes everything." If only that were true, Ethan thought, setting a glass before their guest. The woman drank greedily, then shifted her child to feed him, turning slightly away in modesty. "Thank you," she said softly. "I'm sorry to intrude. We've been walking since dawn, trying to make town before the storm hit." "Walking from where?" Ethan asked, though he already suspected. "Bent's Fort," she confirmed. "I heard there might be work in Redemption Creek. Washing, mending, anything respectable." Respectable. The way she stressed the word told Ethan more than she likely intended. A young woman with a baby, no ring on her finger, searching for decent work. A familiar story on the frontier, where women were scarce and desperation common. "What's your name?" Emily piped up, swinging her legs from the bench beside her. For the first time since arriving, the woman smiled, and it transformed her worn face. "Clara," she said. "Clara Monroe. And this little one is Daniel." "Like the lion man from the Bible," Emily exclaimed. "Ma used to tell me that story before she went to heaven." Clara's gaze flicked to Ethan, comprehension dawning. "I'm sorry for your loss," she murmured. He gave a curt nod, unable to trust his voice. Outside, the wind raged on, rattling the windows with fists of sand. "You can't walk to town in this," Ethan said at last. "Not with a baby. Storm like this could last hours, maybe all night." "I don't want to be a burden." "You already are," he interrupted, though his tone was not unkind. Might as well be trouble with a roof over your head and food in your belly. Emily clapped her hands in delight. She can stay in Ma's sewing room. Grandpa, it's got a bed and everything. The sewing room. Margaret's haven, where she had pieced quilts, mended clothes, and hummed lullabies for the baby who had never taken a breath. Ethan hadn't stepped inside that room since the funeral. I suppose, he murmured, the words dragged reluctantly from his lips. Just until the storm lets up. Even as he spoke, his eyes caught Emily, her laughter spilling as she eagerly told Clara about her rag doll and her favorite hen. In that moment, Ethan felt the first fracture in the walls he had built around his grief. This woman, Clara Monroe, with her weary eyes and unyielding devotion to her child, had reintroduced something into his home that had vanished with Margaret's death. Life. Tangled, unpredictable, messy life. That night, the storm battered the ranch, shutters rattling and roof beams groaning. Ethan stayed near the fire, dozing in his chair, the rifle at his side out of habit. From the hallway drifted Clara's faint lullaby, soothing her baby, her gentle tune weaving seamlessly with the howl of the wind. For the first time in months, the house didn't feel so hollow. Morning broke with a sky scrubbed clean, sunlight pouring fresh across the land. Ethan awoke to the scent of bacon and coffee, an aroma he hadn't smelled since Margaret was alive. For a fleeting, cruel instant, he almost let himself believe she was there again. But the voice greeting him wasn't Margaret's. "Good morning," Clara said from the stove. Daniel bound to her chest with one of Margaret's old aprons. Her face was washed free of dust, her dark hair pinned back, though a stray curl brushed across her cheek. She looked younger, softer. Yet there was a quiet strength in the way she moved, flipping bacon with one hand and stirring eggs with the other. Ethan pushed himself upright, uneasy. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," Clara replied firmly. "I don't accept charity, Mr. Cole. I earn my keep." He didn't argue. The kitchen smelled too much like home for him to protest. Emily sat at the table, hair neatly braided, proudly showing Clara the uneven letters she had scratched onto a slate. Clara praised each one as though it were priceless, and Emily glowed under the attention. Over breakfast, Clara spoke carefully. "If you need help around here, I could stay for a while. Just until I find proper work in town." Ethan studied her. She was asking for more than shelter. She wanted space to breathe, a chance to stand without the weight of an infant or the sting of judgment. He knew he should refuse. Life would stay simpler that way. But when he looked at Emily's hopeful face, his answer shifted. "Room and board mostly. A little pay once the cattle sell this fall," he said. Relief softened Clara's features. "That's more than fair." And with that, it was decided. Clara and her son would remain. Days turned to weeks, and the ranch itself began to transform. Clara worked as if survival depended on it. Mending clothes, planting a new garden, scrubbing every corner of the house until it shone. She taught Emily numbers, patient as any schoolteacher. Daniel was never far, tucked in his sling or gurgling in a basket while she labored. The air filled with the fragrance of fresh bread and lavender once more, and Ethan couldn't deny that life had crept back into his home. But not everyone welcomed the change. On their first trip into Redemption Creek, Ethan heard the whispers he had been expecting. At the Mercantile, Mrs. Abigail Thornton, the banker's wife, looked Clara up and down like dirt on her shoe. "And who might this be?" she asked, her voice honeyed with malice, her friends leaning closer to hear. "This is Miss Monroe," Ethan answered evenly. "She's lending a hand at the ranch with her child." Mrs. Thornton's brows rose. "How enterprising." Clara lifted her chin. "Yes, ma'am. This is my son, Daniel." Mrs. Thornton's eyes flicked deliberately to Clara's bare hand. "And Mr. Monroe?" "There is no Mr. Monroe," Clara said steadily, though her cheeks burned. The silence that followed cut like glass. Mrs. Thornton's smile turned sharp. "Well, how progressive. Ethan, you must be cautious. A man in your position, with a young daughter. I think of Emily every day." Ethan's voice hardened. "And today I think she needs her supplies. Good day, Mrs. Thornton." He ushered Clara inside, but the gossip had already begun to spread. The following Sunday after service, the Reverend pulled Ethan aside, voice gentle yet concerned. "Ethan, generosity is commendable, but appearances matter. Folks will talk. For Emily's sake, you may want to reconsider. Margaret would have taken her in, Ethan replied firmly. I won't do less. The Reverend sighed, letting the matter rest. But Ethan knew the rumors would move quicker than wildfire across the prairie. That night, Clara rocked Daniel on the porch, watching the stars scatter across the dark sky. Her voice was quiet. I should go. I won't let Emily be shunned because of me. Ethan leaned against the railing, his face in shadow. Nobody's shunning anyone. Not if I can help it. Her green eyes met his, searching. You don't know Lucas Tate. He'll twist everything. Make it seem like I trapped you. He'll say I'm unfit, and the town will believe him. Ethan's jaw tightened. The boy's father. Clara nodded, shame flickering in her gaze. He left when I told him about the baby. Said he already had a wife back in Missouri. I was a fool to believe him. Ethan's voice dropped, steady and low. His loss. Clara let out a bitter laugh. That's what I tried to tell myself. But the town doesn't see it that way. They see a fallen woman, someone unworthy of decent company. You're under my roof, Ethan said firmly. That makes you decent in my eyes. For a moment, something unspoken lingered between them. Clara turned back toward the stars, rocking Daniel gently. He whimpered, soothed by her soft humming. Inside, Emily slept clutching her rag doll close. Ethan stayed on the porch, watching Clara, wondering how much longer he could keep his heart walled off, because each day she slipped further inside. When the thunderstorm rolled in, Ethan knew trouble had come. Emily's cries pierced the night, and he rushed into her room to find her flushed, struggling for breath. Each inhale whistled ragged, each exhale barked harshly. The croup, he whispered, memories crashing down. Margaret had once held their daughter through a night just like this. Steam rising from boiling pots while Ethan prayed she'd last until morning. She had survived then, but Margaret hadn't. Clara appeared in the doorway, hair loose, Daniel strapped against her chest. One look at Emily, and her face went pale. Sit her near the stove, she ordered quickly. We'll make steam. Ethan carried his panicked daughter into the kitchen. Clara was already stoking the fire. Kettles set to boil, peppermint and eucalyptus crushed from her garden. Blanket, she instructed. He fetched one, and Clara draped it over Emily and Ethan like a tent to trap the steam. Then she crawled beneath it too, Daniel stirring but quieting as she hummed softly. Emily's terrified gaze found Clara's face. Breathe with me, sweetheart, Clara murmured, clasping her hand and gently running her fingers through Emily's hair. You're safe. Gradually, painfully, Emily's breaths evened out. Color crept back into her cheeks. Exhaustion replaced panic, and she slumped against her father's chest, still coughing but no longer gasping for air. Ethan's throat ached. He knew that without Clara, this night might have ended the way the last one had, with a loss too heavy to bear. By dawn Emily slept soundly. Clara sagged at the table, Daniel dozing in her lap, her features drawn yet calm. You saved her, Ethan said softly. I couldn't. Not alone. Clara shook her head. We both did. She's strong. She'll be all right. Still, Ethan couldn't stop watching the woman who had walked into his house a stranger, and become the very breath keeping it going. In the days that followed, gossip around town grew louder. Some whispered that Ethan and Clara were married in everything but name. Others muttered that Emily would be harmed by Clara's influence. Clara heard it all, but kept her chin up, pouring herself into the ranch and the children. One afternoon, while she hung laundry under the warm sun, a rider appeared on the horizon. His hat was tipped low. His swagger was both arrogantly familiar and menacing. Clara's heart went cold. Lucas Tate, Emily, she called, steadying her voice. Take Daniel inside. Now. The children obeyed at once, sensing the edge in her tone. Clara stood alone as Lucas rode up to the fence, eyes sweeping the ranch as if it were his. Well, he drawled. Didn't take you long to land on your feet. Cozy little setup you've got. You have no right here, Clara said firmly. I've got every right, Lucas shot back. That's my boy in there. He belongs with his father. You left us. I was out building a future. He sneered. But I'm back now. Pack up. We'll marry proper. Or I'll go to a judge and take Daniel myself. No court will give a child to a fallen woman living in sin. Her knees trembled, but Clara lifted her chin. I will never go with you. Lucas smirked. Then get ready to lose him. He turned his horse and rode away, leaving Clara trembling among the sheets that fluttered like pale ghosts. Ethan came from the barn, rifle in hand. He had seen enough to understand. His voice was tight when he asked, "What did he want?" Clara nodded, fighting to steady herself. "Daniel's father," she said. "He says he'll take the boy to court. He wants everything." Ethan's eyes flashed, burning like stormlit coals. He set the rifle aside and moved closer without touching her. "Then we change the story." "Marry me," Clara gasped. "What? Marry you?" He echoed, incredulous for a moment. "Let him try to take Daniel from a respectable rancher's wife. Let him stand up in court and call you unfit when you're raising both children better than any woman I've seen." Tears sprang to her eyes. "Ethan, you can't. Not just to fix my problems." "I'm not doing it only for that," he said, voice rough with honesty. "I'm asking because these past weeks you've made this house live again. Because Emily loves you. Because I—" His throat tightened, the words raw but real. "Because I don't want to lose you." Silence settled between them, broken only by the soft flap of laundry on the line. Clara's heart hammered. She thought of the man who had lied and left her, then of the man before her, steady, scarred and true. "Yes," she finally whispered. "Yes, Ethan Cole. I'll marry you." He exhaled slowly, the tension easing from his shoulders, and for the first time since Margaret's death, a smile touched his face. They stood near one another, not yet touching, but the promise hung in the air. Two broken people daring to believe they could build something whole together. Inside the house, little Emily pressed her ear to the door and, with a smile, whispered, "Mama's staying."